the one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up? Welcome to episode 260 of Sports Card Nation. Happy to be back, and happy to be back with part 2 of our conversation with Marshall Fogel. Some more interesting topics we are going to cover, some of his favorites and things like that. Before we get to that, I want to say thank you to everyone who reached out, whether it be on social media or email, with happy birthdays. Celebrated that last Friday. So thank you for everyone that did that. Congrats to our birthday giveaway, which was 51 hockey inserts, autos, and game used from Upper Deck, courtesy of their box reviews, and 51 cards to match my age. And so, now we're on to back to our conversation with Mr. Marshall Fogel. And again, very generous of his time coming on, and hope to have him on again down the line as well. So without further ado, here is part 2.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreaks.
Also, remember to check out Midwest Box Breaks Marketplace for breaks, packs, and single cards from over 300 trusted sellers. Apply to sell today at iso.gg/Midwest Box Breaks.
For more than 30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the nation's premier auction house, specializing in sports memorabilia and trading cards. With significant experience and expertise in all major sport, non-sport, and Americana collectibles, REA has helped clients achieve record-breaking prices for their items and has done so with a reputation for integrity and transparency. By actively partnering with collectors and enthusiasts throughout the entire process, REA has created the hobby's most trusted forum for selling high-quality collectibles. Go to robertedwardauctions.com for more information on how to buy or sell in their next auction.
Here is part 2 and our conclusion of our interview with Marshall Fogel. Enjoy. I know you have a fondness for Mickey Mantle. Was that your favorite player kind of growing up?
Well, before I say that, I did want to mention one other answer to your last question. I think it's important. Collecting baseball gloves. The problem with that is that there's not a lot of records on these gloves. And so when they sell them game used, what I do is I get a hold of a fellow named Jim Daniels. He has a website. He can tell you if that glove was made during the career of a ball player. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. They had a Sandy Koufax game used glove that was advertised as game used, but that glove was made after his career. Yeah. So, it's another complicated subject that you have to deal with. Another one is collecting pinbacks. There are a lot of pinbacks that have been recreated, pins of Mantle, Snyder, Fighting Ford, Yogi Berra, and so on. So every subject requires a different form of knowledge of how to collect to be sure that it's real. And as far as Mickey Mantle is concerned, I started, when I was a kid, he was already a hero. Yeah. When I was a kid, to own a 1952 or 53 tops of Mickey Mantle, this is going back in the 50s, that was the card to own. Not Willie Mays, not Jackie Robinson, not that you wouldn't want to own him, but Mantle was so far ahead of everybody that it stuck in my mind that I had to own in 1996 the Mantle 10. No, and I couldn't even afford it at the time. I had to make payments on it, but I just knew that I had to have it, and that someday it would surpass the value of a Honus Wagner card. And later on, I was right.
Yeah, I'm a Jackie Robinson guy. So no, I'm not kidding. I am a Jackie Robinson guy, but But listen, Mantle during that era for sure was a lot of people's favorite, a lot of people's hero. So definitely understand that for sure. When it comes to, do you feel like there's underrated players in the hobby? Is there someone when you look at that's not that it's all about value, but you're like, wow, his cards go for a lot less than they should? And sort of a two-pronged question: is there a player that you look at and you say, man, they're a little bit overrated? Their cards go for more than, to me, this would be your opinion, than they should. Do you ever look at like a player on that level?
Well, I need to finish answering the last question when you brought up Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, in my opinion, became my hero.
Yeah.
Back in 1950s, I wasn't aware of the historical significance of this fine man and his activist role in civil rights. And the more I learned about him, the more I appreciated collecting him. He means as much to me as some of the other players. I mean, there's so much history to baseball with players of all cultures and races and religions, whether it's Hank River, who is Jewish, or Willie Mays, or Ernie Banks, who actually stayed at my house. So, overall, as time goes on and history becomes important, you learn that players like you love, Jackie Robinson, is loved by a lot of other players. Otherwise, why would they retire number 42? And as far as your question of underrated players, oh boy, there are many of those and many overrated. I'll tell you who's underrated. Don Sutton. Here's a guy that pitched 23 years. It's 23 years, 300 wins or more. Another one is Early Wynn. I think a guy like Bobby Shantz, who 5'6" or 7 and pitched 21 winning game season. Ned Garber played for the Browns, won 20 games for a lousy team. Not that their value is there, but they're worth more money in collecting because of the history of who they are. Yep. Don Larson lost 21 games playing for the Browns and then pitches a no-hitter in the World Series. So there are overrated players as well. But Fred McGriff, honestly, some of these guys that are getting in the Hall of Fame are good players, but they're not Hall of Fame players. So another underrated player is Harry Heilman. Harry Heilman was Ty Cobb's favorite player when Cobb was manager in Detroit. Harry Heilman hit 400 twice. There's so many of these guys. Frankie Frisch. But in a way, I think what's happening, John, is some of these underrated players are really becoming more important. I think that's what I try to tell people when they collect. Read about them.
Yep.
They're interesting people. They're just fascinating. Read about High Pockets Kelly and Dave Bancroft and they're kind of like good old boys. They're just fascinating. I think a player that's underrated also is Roger Maris. I firmly believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. So that gives you a sense of some of the, not all of them, but some of the players I think are overrated and some of the players that are underrated. Some of these players are getting in the Hall of Fame now. certainly couldn't get in the Hall of Fame 40 years ago.
Yeah, with that being said, and you brought up, I'm sure a lot of people are going to hear this and go and look up some of those folks as they should and learn more about them. I guess, again, another two-pronged question. Do you still follow today's game? And and if you do, is there anyone of today's current players that you've taken a fondness to or will live up to that sort of billing of players from yesterday potentially?
Well, as far as the modern players go, I think Jeter was a phenomenal player. I watched him play because I exhibit my collection in part to the Yankee Museum.
Yeah.
I've been doing it now for over 10 years. So, and I grew up as a Yankee fan because Denver was a farm club for the Yankees when Tony Kubek played here, Johnny Blanchard, Brian Duran, Bobby Richardson, Don Larson, Ralph Houck, just to name a few.
Yep.
And so the Yankees have always been my favorite team, and now I have another favorite team, Colorado Rockies. I became really close with the owner, Dick Monfort. I know he really cares about trying to get a team that can do better. He works hard at what he does. He's a hell of a good guy. So I feel bad that we lost Arenado. Watching him play, he's one of my favorites. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for him in Denver. Mm-hmm. I thought Tom Candiotti, when he played for the Dodgers, was a hell of a knuckleballer, good friend of mine as well. I just think Bergman, the third baseman for Houston, is an outstanding third baseman and a wonderful fielder. It's Dante Bichette's son. I can't remember his first name, but Paul. I think he plays for Toronto.
Yep.
He's fun to watch. I mean, this guy is good. Some of these guys today, there's so many of them that are so skilled. In order to get in the Hall of Fame, you have to play. You should have 5 really significant MVP years. You should be able to play over 10 years. And, it's hard. Some of these guys off to a good start. Remember Valenzuela?
Oh, yeah.
For the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, you thought he'd be in the Hall of Fame. Well, how about Clark? He didn't get, he got hurt for the Giants. Will Clark. So, sometimes you got to be careful when you collect because, you get excited for a player and then he gets hurt or he fades or he has personal problems and he never makes it. So that's just another way to be careful. It's like in basketball, all these players that were hot, you never hear about them anymore. Yep. And you spend all this money on this whole crazy modern card market, which in my opinion is starting to tank.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts. I think obviously the production levels are through the roof, and that's whether you collect for financial or not, it's still a factor. Long term and even in the short term, as you pointed out, and so for sure, going back to Jackie Robinson for me. And I won't spend a lot of time on it. You're my guest. But as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, and my dad, who was also from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, who grew up basically going to Ebbets Field quite a bit and seeing these guys up close and personal and meeting, in many cases, most of them. Jackie Robinson from an early age, from me, just resonated. I did most of my essays or book reports were about him, to the point where my teachers were like, "Hey, you got to pick someone else, John." And you make a great point about the social injustice and things that he changed and was a catalyst for. I can make an argument. His career was unfortunately short, great but short, and what he did off the field was Hall of Fame. As well as on the field. When you factor both of those lives as one, he's just a tremendous individual, a tremendous person, and a ball player as well. That's why, for me, as a Brooklyn kid, from an early age, he was someone I even though he passed away a month before I was born, He was someone that through just being, product of my environment, the stories from my dad and others, he was someone that resonated and I gravitated towards. So I wanted to sort of throw, people who've listened to me sort of heard that before, but I definitely wanted to mention that to you, to why, for me, Jackie kind of sticks out and is kind of my guy there.
I have an unknown to many people a Jackie Robinson story that I'd like to tell you.
Sure.
Jackie Robinson, if I remember, played for UCLA football.
Yep. Oh yeah, he played track, basketball. I think he even played tennis. Like he was just an all-around great athlete. But go ahead, Marshall.
Well, he suffered quite a bit by being black.
Yep.
At UCLA, and he was really not treated well at all. And then he went into the military, and this is a great story. People think Rosa Parks was the first to have a problem when she went to the front of the bus and refused to go to the back of the bus. She was not the first. Jackie Robinson was.
Yep.
When Jackie Robinson was in the military,
yep.
They had buses to take you around the base, and he got in the bus and sat in the front. And the bus driver told him, sit in the back. And he said no. And he finally got court-martialed for it and won the court-martial.
Yep.
But he was way before Rosa Parks ever became famous. Not that she wasn't an icon in and of itself.
Yep.
But Robinson was not the only one looked at to be the first player of his race. It was Josh Gibson.
Yep.
And Gibson ended up, he had a lot of mental problems and in fact died at the age of 36. But boy, Bransford, he picked the right guy. Because he took a lot of abuse but basically, I mean, think about it. First year in Major League Baseball, he becomes Rookie of the Year. So he was off to a good start. And he really made a difference in baseball. Because baseball integrated so quickly before anybody else except the armed forces, but they never integrated at the time right away.
Yeah, and to have that year, Marshall, with a lot of what he was facing on a daily basis, and not just on road games. My dad told me even initially, even in Ebbets Field, it wasn't 100% well received. He eventually won people over, and that changed, and the climate changed. But to have that rookie season that he did with the adversity he faced, even makes that season even more standout than it already is on its own.
But I think equally was important was Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax, both of the Jewish faith. We can't ignore the contributions that those two fellas made in terms of what they went through as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And for people, like I knew, thank you for sharing that military bus story with Jackie. As a Jackie guy, I knew that, but probably a lot of people don't. So they can kind of go back and learn some of, it's not even baseball history, it's just history, right, of our country, and important to say the least.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
Do you have a favorite? I know you have a great. Do you have a favorite set design? Is there a certain set that kind of stands out for you or moves your meter maybe more so than others? Is it the 52 Tops, which is iconic in its own right, or is there other sets or designs that you're very fond of?
My favorite sets are 33 Goudy, 41 Play Ball, 52 Tops, 53 Tops, and 57 Tops. Those are my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, all good ones. No, you'll get no arguments from me, and probably not from many people whatsoever. Do you get into unopened wax at all, even from the vintage era, or is that something that's doesn't interest
you? It's not of interest to me because I don't like collecting what I can't see.
Yeah, no, hey, I get it.
And I probably open the box and ruin the value. I'm not against people collecting it, but I don't know how you can spend all that money and you don't know what's in the box.
Yeah. No, listen, I hear you. We've seen some crazy prices on some of that stuff and continuing to trend up. I'll ask you, I know you talked about, opening packs as a kid. What was the last pack you opened? Was anything recent, or has it been quite a bit?
Nothing recent. I mean, the most of the time when I opened packs was in 1953. Little did I know how difficult it is to get an 8. Most of these, I did open some boxes that Bill Goodwin had, 62. There were these VIP boxes of 62 Tops. Here's what's interesting. People don't understand, and some do, how hard it is to find a centered card. He opened up a bunch of boxes. Those days, the 62 Tops commons were $2-3. I'll bet you out of 600 cards, there's around that number. You're lucky to get 25 or 30 cards that were even centered. That's how hard it is when you look at these cards made in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and before they had laser printing and upper deck and all this stuff. When there's just not a lot of really easy finds. If you say, well, it's an 8, don't take it for granted. There weren't a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's we're talking about quality control. Back then, they didn't have the technology we have now. And that being said, even with the technology in now, QC is a huge issue, even in 2023. So it's not. When you think about that kind of makes your point for you, Marshall. Is we're seeing some quality control issues today. With all the technology and computers and lasers and pinpoint tools that they have, and we still have cards not coming out of 2023 packs in 9 or 10 shape all the time, so to speak. So think about, like you said, in the 50s, they didn't have the stuff that we have today. So, I'll defend them in that regard. So, yeah, I think you make a great point, and that's kind of why. And here we are, 70 years later, and it's still an issue with even new stuff.
Well, I agree. It's not as bad as it was, but you certainly overall get better grades in math than you did in the 50s.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying it's still an issue today. So it definitely would be an issue, in the 50s with less technology that was available at that time. When it comes,
I agree with what you said. I think you're right about the modern card. There's still issues and problems. I agree with that.
Yeah. Are you much? Do you collect sets at all, or is it really more individual cards? And did you ever collect sets if you don't currently?
Most of my collection are sets.
Okay.
However, when it got into the 60s and 70s, I collected the star cards because you try to put together a 67, a 65, a 66 set. There's so many cards and they're so difficult to get centered. And I didn't have an interest in some of the players, but I have a lot of really fine star cards. I kind of, after 69, I have some 70s that are star cards. But, once Upper Deck hit and it started making so much volume, it just didn't work. It just, it's not worth my time. Do I think people should collect it? Yeah, because but it's not an investment necessarily. It's more of having fun and enjoying collecting your favorite player or your favorite team players.
Yeah, no doubt. Understandable. All right, I got to ask you this, Marshall. It's sort of the, the hot card being discussed at the moment. I'm sure you know about it. Not breaking news to you. The Babe Ruth Baltimore News. Many people consider it as rookie card. Not a card that came out of a pack. Wasn't distributed in that fashion. Supposedly, only 10 exist. No one knows for sure the exact number. One is going to auction with REA, a sponsor of this podcast. A little shout out to them. Your thoughts on the card is, for what you can say, what you think about this card, and would this be something you'd love to add to your collection?
Well, I know that one sold privately for maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago for $650,000. I know there are two different colors. One is blue and one is the color red that's being sold now. Mm-hmm. They are extremely important, valuable cards. Do I think it'll go over $1.5 million? Absolutely. Is it something I would buy? I just don't have a need for it. It's just when you get into $2 million or $1.5 million, I just don't want to spend the money. Sometimes you have to be happy with what you have.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The problem is when you're addicted, anybody that collects this stuff, they're addicted. I'm addicted. And so, with the volume that I own and the quality and condition and the historic significance of so many things that I have, I've learned to, without going to a therapist, I got to stop. You got to put an end to it and enjoy what you have. You can't own everything. I think whoever wins it has got something really significant. And I'm a condition freak. My stuff is I collect high quality condition, whether it's a photograph. I don't want anything that has creases in it mm-hmm. or is missing a corner on a photograph. But I'll tell you, would I like to own this card? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would I steal it if I didn't get caught? You bet.
Yeah, I get it. There's some, and I'm really wondering, and I want to get your thoughts, Marshall, on this. There's some that are saying this is going to set the record for highest auction for one card ever. I mean, what do you think that's possible? Do you think that current market conditions aren't conducive to that at this point, or kind of where do you think this winds up? I mean, obviously it's all speculation, and the proof will be in the pudding, but kind of putting on, your expert hat, if you will. Where do you think this is possible for this card, I guess, is my question.
Well, there's two things going for that card to make it hit the high numbers that you're talking about in your question. One is the vintage. Vintage always sells.
Yep.
Two, there's so much money out there. There are so many people with so much money that collect. Now, it's not a high volume of people, but it's a lot. And I think all these wells in the ocean, that's what I call these guys that got tech money and become billionaires or multimillionaires. This is going to be better than watching a boxing match for the heavyweight title. I'd like to be a fly on the wall to watch these guys bang it out, and then it'll get down to two guys that have nothing but money, and they'll kill each other, and it could go for over $10 million. But you know what's fun about it? It's going to go for a lot of money. It's like betting on football or baseball. All bets are off because I don't think you can even predict what's going to happen with that card. It's so in high demand.
So it wouldn't. Let me ask you another question, kind of similar but in a different sort of way. Or it wouldn't surprise you if this became the new record holder.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
But I think what's going to happen is it's going to narrow down to 2 or 3 guys that are going to bang it out. There'll be plenty of guys bidding on it, but then when it starts hitting those numbers like 7, 8 million, the guys that have those have chutzpah, as they say.
Yep.
They're gonna bang it out, and they should put that on Netflix if they could.
Well, listen, almost everything else gets on Netflix, so don't be surprised you don't see that show, and they'll have to give you some credit for suggesting it right there. But yeah, it's gonna definitely be interesting to say the least, to see where this thing goes and what it winds up. I can tell you with 100% certainty, like you, as I would love to own it, but not in my budget. So I'm going to have to live vicariously through someone else and seeing who gets it, if we even know. Sometimes, as you know, that's not necessarily public information. The price might be, but the identity might not be.
Let me tell you something.
Sure.
I've been on podcasts a lot, and I certainly enjoy speaking with you. One of the things that I want to say,
sure,
when these people start saying bad things about people who have money and collect, and they say, oh, this card is really not a 10, it's a 9, or it's a 6, or you don't know, this guy's just because he has money, he's been able to collect. Let me tell you, those people ought to close the door, live in the basement of their parents' house. You know something? I know a lot of rich people that collect, and let me tell you, they're good people.
Yeah.
They're very charitable. I'll give you an example. You take the owner of the Rockies, who is a friend of mine, the owner of the Diamondbacks. You have no idea, and that includes a lot of owners and a lot of guys who collect, how charitable they really are.
Yep.
And second of all, a lot of these guys that have made money, don't resent them. They started with nothing.
Yep.
They didn't feel sorry for themselves. So I'm really upset with these guys that write bad stuff about people that can afford to collect this stuff. If it wasn't for them, they wouldn't, this wouldn't be in a place it is today.
Yep.
As far as Bill Mastro and Al Rosen is concerned, let me tell you, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I agree.
I'm done with that now.
Yeah, no, and listen, I appreciate you saying that, and I had an interaction as a 12-year-old kid in New York that wasn't great with Mr. Mint. I asked him about something, and he said, "Hey, you can't afford it, kid." Well, guess what? He was right. But like you said, I agree, Marshall. They're important figures to where the hobby is now, and I'm a history guy. We are where we are today, and this is not just a hobby thing. This is across all genres and all niches and industries and world history. We are where we are today because what has happened in the past. Everything is a bridge to today and tomorrow and future tomorrow. So you won't get any argument from me. And if you do your homework, you'll realize that. And whether you like someone or don't like somebody, that's neither here nor there. But the fact remains that these are important folks. And again, we're not here where we are today without them and what they did prior. And that's just a cross start. So I appreciate you pointing that out. I'm waving that same banner and pennant. And it's just true. And I think sometimes, that's one of my pet peeves, Marshall, is I think sometimes we forget that. Not me, but some people may forget the importance of the past to where we are today. And whether you care or not, it's still important. And I appreciate you.
Well, I'm glad to. And I think what the bottom line is, enjoy it, have fun with it. It doesn't, I know guys that have, cards worth $500,000 and guys that have cards worth $50.
Yeah.
We're all, we're all kids at heart when you collect this stuff. I've had people come over here, whether it's Don Larson's been at my house, Johnny Blanchard, Ralph Terry, Larry Walker, governors. Where I've had, they come to have lunch with me, and then we go to a special location to see the collection. And you know what? They take their ties off, they laugh, they have fun. And I just think people should not be so critical of everything.
Well, you know where. Oh, listen, I'll keep it real here. And I've said this on my show, or even as guests on other people's podcasts. Right, a lot of that kind of stuff, as you probably know, comes from jealousy. Right, maybe they want that, they don't have it, and so it's just easy to take a cheap shot or say something bad about someone from behind a keyboard or behind a phone, and that sort of thing. It's just easy. Unfortunately, it's not going to stop. It's just going to be what it is. And like you said, right, truer words probably never spoken. Right, have fun with it, regardless of what your collection's worth. I've called this hobby a fraternity, right? And we're all in the same one, regardless of value of collection. We're all in the hobby together. It's a fraternity, and that's how I look at it. I know not everyone may look at it in the same vein, but that's my approach anyway.
Well, you should live life this way. God takes care of those who take care of others and doesn't expect any recognition or anything in return. And if you live your life that way, you'll be a good person.
Yep. Nope. I agree. One last question I have. It's a question I get asked sometimes with my collection, and I don't really have a good answer a lot of times for it. I get asked like, "Hey, John, what's the end game with your collection? What happens, when we're not here anymore?" And I have a son. He's 23 at the moment. He has a little interest, not in the same passion I do, and obviously. Some of it will be left to him and family to do as they need to do. What is the future for the Marshall Fogel collection, if you can say?
Well, it's a two-prong answer.
Sure.
The way collections move on is death, bankruptcy, and divorce. That's it. Yeah. And so it's not hard. A lot of times it's bankruptcy and divorce. We know death is going to happen, but we don't predict the other two. But in my case, because of the difficulty it would be to put this collection together, it never could be done. I'm hoping that my family will keep it together and find a way to display it so people can enjoy it. Now, the other thing I was thinking about is buying 10 acres in a cemetery, building a pyramid, and taking it all with me. But I haven't been able to find the ground yet.
Well, I tell you what, if you were to do that, you'd have a lot of, I think as well as I do, there'd be a lot of visitors to pay their respects, not only to you and the collection. And listen, let's make that later rather than sooner, as they say.
Well, in the end game, I'll leave you with this. My father taught me this. Everyone you meet knows something you don't know.
Yep.
So don't underestimate somebody, and don't judge them by the value of their money, but judge them by the heart that they have. And it's just like in collecting, I get guys that'll call me, they got a baseball signed by Keith Hernandez. They want to know what it's worth. Well, you know what? Be a gentleman. Take the call. And that's what you have to be. I think in my stage in life, I enjoy being an ambassador. I think everybody has something to offer. I never judge people by the value of their finances, and if you can do that in life, you're going to make a lot of friends.
Well said. And your dad was apparently a very smart gentleman, and it's true, right? Everyone does. Regardless of what you think or don't think of someone, they do know something you don't, and that's correct. And we should be measured by it, because that's really our true self, and there's nothing disingenuous about that once you know what someone's. I appreciate Marshall. I know you're a very busy man. I appreciate you sharing some of that time with us today. Anything before we wrap it up you want to close with?
Well, John, God bless you. God bless America. And you have a wonderful day.
You too. You as well. Thank you, sir. All right. That concludes the conversation with Mr. Marshall Fogel, and I can't stress enough how cool that was to talk to him. He doesn't do a lot of these, podcasts. So it was just great how it all went down. Happy to have him on. Gotten to know him a little bit more with conversations, even unrecorded, and maybe we'll have him back on somewhere down the line as well. So he's got a great collection, and fun to see share some of those cards. I posted some of them on social media, which he allowed me to do. So with that being said, we're going to get to our Hobby is the People announcement and some closing thoughts, and we'll be wrapping up the episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Yo and hello everybody, Mike here, baseball collector, and remember that the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Hobby News Daily is your homepage of the hobby, providing original writing, exclusive gem rate data, a daily morning minute podcast, and some of the best content creators in the hobby. Remember, hobbynewsdaily.com and at Hobby News Daily on social. Happy collecting!
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.